Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. How's it going, guys? How are you? Whew, we are here. We are here for some shit. We're here to talk about some stuff. Bring the swamp German on again. I thought Charlie was delightful, and I'm glad people got to get a better dose of her here on the show yesterday than they got during the trial. So I like her. I think she's fun. I think she's smart. I think people during the trial, people get really invested in trials, and if you say anything that even sounds like contrary to the narrative, people start getting like very apprehensive of, whoa, this person might rock my worldview a little bit. It's like, well, one, maybe, but two, listen to the whole thing first. And also the fact that English is not her first language, and she labors through it a little bit, I think compounded things. She may have been a little bit sauced on the first stream too, because it was late at night for her, whereas this stream was early in the morning. So all around, good show with her. I really enjoyed it. And I think we'll see. Maybe we'll see her again in the future. Who knows? She was cool. Karamachet over in the locals chat. A fixture of the locals chat is Karamachet, a personal hero of mine. And I think she disagrees, but that's okay, because I love her. She's fantastic. And by the way, this show and every show is brought to you by RekietaLaw.locals.com, particularly the locals live chat, people who are there every single day, basically for all the shows, and for the between times, between the shows, where we get to have, daytime discussions, engage in all sorts of tomfoolery and nonsensory that happens. So that's always good. Tonight, however, we have a little bit of a different show. We are doing, of course, it is What the Fuck Wednesday, where we will be discussing some ridiculous stuff later on. But at first, before we get into that, we're going to be doing the traditional What the Fuck Wednesday, which is just the average news of the average day. And these days, that's a dangerous sort of thing to talk about. Like, what's going on is it's just a mess every single day. It's a mess. But we're going to be talking about what's going on right now in regards to, we got a couple topics. We've got guns. There's a ruling out of a court in Missouri that's a little bit complicated. We'll take a peek at that story and talk about it, where basically, I think it's Missouri, they want to make their state into a sanctuary state for the Second Amendment, and an Obama appointed judge says, no, that violates the Constitution. And we'll have to talk about whether or not it does. It doesn't. We'll have to talk about it, because there isn't like a definitive answer. You got to really be on both sides of this issue. It doesn't violate the Constitution. It's a retarded ruling. Like, there's really just a whole lot of different ways you could look at this. Nope, just one. Really, there's just one way. And the judge's reasoning is absolutely fucking retarded. But, we'll get into the nuance of it. We'll get into the nuance and talk about that. So we've got that, though. And we'll talk about where that's going. Of course, talk about where that's going. And then we'll get into maybe a little bit more broad general discussion about guns, about court rulings on gun law, as we are now in this post-Buren world, Bruin, whatever the fuck it is. The one from New York, the Supreme Court case that just was decided last year that changed everything. New York Pistol Rifle Association, I think it's versus Bruin. But that case has changed how everything looks. And so we're going to be talking about that. And I'll talk about my hopes for where that leads. My hopes can't happen. It would make things too good for my hopes to happen. But we'll be talking about it in regards to the Second Amendment and all sorts of guns and freedom shit. Okay? Some good old guns and freedom red meat. Then we've got this Tennessee drag issue. And we're going to take a look at it from a little bit of a different perspective. We'll take a clinical, analytical perspective to it rather than simply let's keep kids away from sex stuff perspective that I talked about with Camelot. I think that was Monday, where we talked about that a little bit. We'll kind of look at it from a legal perspective because I think you have a potential challenge to the law. Even though a lot of people like that law, a lot of people don't like that law. It's definitely going to go to court on a discrimination basis. And so we're going to look at that and see if there is anything to that and how that could work out. And some people, what you got to do first is not be mad about what I say about it, which is impossible to prepare for. But I think when we start getting into the legal questions behind it, know that these are the types of challenges that will be raised against it, regardless of whether or not anyone agrees with those things. These are the types of arguments that are going to come up in regards to that. And then we've got some January 6th stuff. And there's some really interesting shit that happened in Enrique Tarrio's case today. The Proud Boys case in general, there's, I think, 6 defendants or something like that, 5 or 6 defendants. And something really interesting happened today that we're going to also talk about. So that's kind of on the menu for general stuff. As to what else we get into, that's kind of on you, chat. I don't vocalize this enough, but the chat, you guys have every potential to impact the show, to change the way the show goes, to make me do something else. Because I love you and I read you, and there is always a possibility to derail the fuck out of this thing. Because I also have, some level of ADD plus autism. And so like me switching topics or whatever, that's on you. If you're ever unhappy with the show, that's your fault. It's not mine. Like, I'm responsible for the content. Like what? I'm supposed to do work or something in regards to this? No, come on. Fuck off with that nonsense. Okay. The other thing that happened today is I think it was today. I got the Las Vegas live show either today or last night. I don't remember. The Las Vegas live show is now up on Locals. It is fully visible to anyone who is a local supporter. The full stream of the full live show in Las Vegas. Now, that's not all that occurred in Vegas. So I would still encourage you, if you like the live show and you're like, well, but I could always just watch it later. Kind of true, except there's so much else that happens around the show. Meeting up with people, going out to going to the bar after the show, before the show, whatever. Meeting up with people around Vegas, meeting up with me at bars, or some people got, I had dinner with some people, breakfast with some people. All sorts of that stuff happens at these live events. And so if you think, I could just watch it later, I mean, you certainly can. Absolutely. If you're a local supporter, that's where these things are going to go up. But also, there's a lot of fun to be had aside from the show as well. So it's a whole different experience in person. So it's a blast. But make sure you check that out if you're a local supporter. If you're not a local supporter and you want to check it out, just sign up. Real simple. Real easy, like $5 a month, and that'll get you in. But yeah, so with that, let me also hit some of these chats that are early, and we'll talk. Loric Project says, "Hey Nick, haven't been able to catch your show live in a year. Been loving the catalog. Also, Mitch McConnell took a fall tonight. Like he fell for real? Like he fell down? You lied, you're not in drag? I didn't say I was gonna be in drag. What are you talking about? Wait, what the fuck? Uh, oh, good. Great. Okay. We'll talk about that too. It'll kind of go in with this stuff. 'Cause there's a whole conflation issue. Sorry, my locals posted a thing posted by Governor Tim Walz where he took measures to protect the life/gender affirming care, which are two pretty different things. So we'll talk about that as well because it kind of goes along with the drag issue. Um, he's in the hospital. What are you too much cocaine? Cocaine Mitch is basically just a normal person, like because the cocaine just speeds him up to the average. But we'll see about that. Texas Horse Rescue says your toast for our rescue during storms saved us, but rescue destroyed by tornado. Now I need a toast that PETA don't cancel our GoFundMe. Fox Weather covered the story. PETA hates us because we aren't liberals and our Second Amendment in Texas. Well, I guess we'll start the stream with the toast. And I got a new whiskey today. We've got this Penelope Kentucky straight bourbon. I don't know a straight anything named Penelope, but it smells good. Let's see if it is good. That tastes kind of good. The Haley Bieber and Selena Gomez drama. All right. Penelope Bourbon Barrel Strength pushes the boundaries of our signature 4-grain balanced flavor profile. This batch was blended from 3 bourbon mash bills that are aged a minimum of 4 years in new American oak barrels. Each barrel was carefully hand selected and blended into a single batch to create this unique offering. So this is the barrel strength Penelope. It's batch number 14, 112 proof, 4-grain bourbon. My choice in bourbon is excellent. Oh, you've had this? It was new, so I tried it. It was new to my store, so I tried it. Whoa! That's delicious. It kicks like a mule in your mouth. Wow. Okay. So, real quick, this is a very active whiskey. Very tingly, burny sensation everywhere it touches, kind of like gonorrhea, but with better taste and less pus involved. Man, it's good. It goes down pretty smooth. Hold on. It smells like gasoline. Very, very strong alcohol smell. My eyes want to water a little bit. Oh, I gotta hit another one of these. I gotta hit another one of these. Oh, that punch. Gosh, it's punching me so hard in the back of the throat. I need a consult from Riley Reed. Whoo! That's good. That's a good bourbon. It's got a little bit of sourness on the back end, which is I normally don't like the sour whiskeys, but this one's tasty. It's not pronounced. It reminds me of the aftertaste of like a sugary candy, like a sweet tart or something like that. That's good stuff. All right, here we go. We got to get the toast in for the Texas Horse Rescue. A toast to Texas Horse Rescue, a based rescue operation that gives no shits to PETA and is pro Second Amendment, which is crucial. I mean, I don't know how you could have horses and not be pro Second Amendment, because what if someone tries to take them? But that being said, a toast to you guys. Sorry to hear that the storms took out your operation. Hopefully, you'll be back running, and your GoFundMe will be very successful very, very soon. And you'll be back to doing what you care about, which is rescuing horses and making sure that they have a place to live, survive, and thrive. Cheers. They also joined at the paralegal level, which is awesome. Lassie F says, you say the chat can affect your stream. Well, can we donate for you to get a haircut? I mean, you can, but I make no warranties, promises, or representations about what will happen to your donation money. Old man Marley says, let's get into that forward you owe your friend Gosney. Write it. It will be written before tomorrow morning. I did not. He never told me when he needed the forward done until today at like 8 p.m. He's like, I need this done by tomorrow. Like, oh my God. I thought he was just being his normal, like, high energy worker self. And he's like, no, it's got to go to the printer tomorrow. Need it done. Like, oh, okay. Well, damn. I'll get it done. I thought I had a little bit more time than tomorrow. So, all right. Kaya Wee says, can you do a toast for my sister-in-law, Heather? She had a heart attack this weekend, and today she passed away. She's a teacher, musician, and an incredible godly woman. Her 43rd birthday was Monday, and yesterday her son turned 13. No one saw this coming. Yes, I absolutely can. All right. These always hit home a little bit extra for me because 43, I'm 41, and you don't really think of your mortality very often, or I don't think of my mortality very often, because I'm an idiot, I think, but also just because, most of my friends are still alive. We don't have major health problems. And when someone dies out of the blue like this, it's always a shock to the system. So to Heather, the sister-in-law of Kaya Wee, Heather is a teacher and a musician, right? Someone who brought their education experience, their artistic interpretation, their life channeled into other people's lives, and sharing gifts with those other people. That's an amazing thing. And top that off with being a godly woman, of great import to those around her. Um, an inspiration, and an inspiration that's cut a little bit short by nature, by fate, by circumstance, by some sort of divine will, whatever you take it to be. It's always shocking to those of us who are left behind to examine the pieces of their life. And may those examining the pieces of Heather's life put together a wonderful mosaic, a puzzle that ignores any of her flaws and accentuates all of the good she did, all of the influence that she had, and all of the love she shared with the people around her. Cheers. All right. And we also have another chat just came in. Kyle Bogue says 6 more inches of snow tomorrow. You fucking mouth. Sword and Scale. What's up, Mike? We got to have you on again, buddy. We got to talk more. I love that guy. He's a true, a discerning connoisseur of life and championship. Sorry, having a little bit of an issue that I might have to deal with here. Uh, Fucking hell. All right. Just a second. I might have to deal with something on locals real quick. Oh, there's an issue that they definitely need to fix. Mm-mm-mm-mm. All right. Just a second. Whew. Okay. Got that fixed. All right. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that. There we go. So, back to this super chat. My apologies. Says 6 more inches of snow tomorrow. At this rate, we'll be lucky to be golfing in July. By the way, I usually walk, but I don't care either way. Whatever you want to do. Oh, I can walk a golf course. I'm a grown man. I have a sweet remote controlled golf caddy. Snow gone by July? Maybe. Dude, I was so excited. My driveway is almost clear. It's almost clear. And then, of course, snow. Big, giant fucking snowstorm. And it's going to just pack back down and take forever to clear again. It was so warm today. It was like 37 degrees. I'm like, just clear the driveway. That's all I need. Just clear the driveway. Nature, just clear the fucking driveway. Ugh. Uh, anyway. But now, because of course I want to drive my car. That's what I want to do. I just want to drive my car. That's it. That's all I want to fucking do. Um, so anyway. All right. Thank you to all who have sent in super chats so far. If you don't know, I read all of the super chats in a particular order where I do $20 super chats in YouTube and Rumble first. And I do anything over $1 on locals first. First is in like right away at the next time it's convenient. And then everything else I save for a couple spots in the show and catch up on those. So if you did want to message right away, again, $20 plus on YouTube and Rumble, and anything over, well, the $5 and up, I should say, on locals, because that's as a thank you to my local supporters for supporting me all the time. LP Dirty T says, hello, Nick. Could I get a toast for my wife's 39th birthday? LP Dirty T. Hey, man, it was great to meet you guys in Vegas. Happy 39th birthday to your wife. She will be 39, of course, forever. And that is great. I don't like the 29 forever thing, but I'm down with the 39 forever. So cheers to her. A happy birthday. And I know you are a guy who is providing her a happy birthday every opportunity you get. Cheers to you guys and to many happy years together. And then finally, Unan Nalo says, Nick, I heard a sarcastic remark today about opening a fast food restaurant and then fat shaming your customers. I was like, Nick Rekieta should do that. I need to suggest it to him. This is good idea. This is good. Oh, yeah. Eat that burger, you fat piece of shit. Yeah, get those sausage mittens up into your mouth and put that little tiny hamburger down your gullet. Eat that 850 calories per bite grease bag, you burger eating monster. If you even can you even see it? When you lick the grease off of your fingers, does it have to get extracted from your veins later by IV? Like, yeah, we should do that. It's good. Okay. Let's get into these topics. It's our first one, the guns topic. Yeah. 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 All right. So here we go. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is hospitalized after falling at a private dinner. He fall. Why don't you just retract back into his shell? Hey, what's up, Runkle? Oh yeah, buddy. We're gonna be talking about some gun stuff here in a minute. We've got a bad ruling coming out of Missouri that we're gonna talk about, and then we're going to move into something a little different. Hold on one second. Let's see. What do we got? Fucking hell. Okay. There we are. All right. So federal judge rules Missouri gun laws unconstitutional. Now, what's funny about this is written, this headline is written. You got to remember this is an NBC News headline, but it's written as if it's from a right wing publication, right? Oh, a Missouri gun law is unconstitutional. This isn't a Missouri gun law. Let's be very clear. This isn't a gun law. This is a police law, a law enforcement law. This is not regulating guns. This is regulating law enforcement. So let's talk about what's going on here. The Justice Department sued last year over the state law, which declared invalid several federal gun regulations that don't have equivalent statutes in Missouri. All right. So a Missouri law that declared several federal gun laws invalid is unconstitutional. A U.S. federal judge ruled on Tuesday, handing U.S. Justice Department a victory in its bid to get the law tossed out. We should already be pissed off about this. If the government is suing, the federal government, do you think it's on behalf of you? Do you think it's on behalf of you? Is the federal government helping you out with a lawsuit? No, it's protecting its own fucking power every single time. Every time it's protecting their own power. Like, oh, the federal government's going to sue somebody. Why? For themselves. And that's what's going on here. They're not interested in you, your freedom. They're not interested in anything like that at all. They are interested only in preserving their own power. It is the rule of government. The government exists to perpetuate and propagate itself and nothing else. Fuck the government. Every single time, by the way, fuck the government. All right. At issue was a measure Republican Governor Mike Parson signed into law in 2021 that declared that certain federal gun laws infringed on the rights of individuals to keep and bear arms under the U.S. Constitution's Second Amendment. So here we go. Yet again, we have a state determining that the federal government is violating its constitutional obligation to protect the right to keep and bear arms. You know, the thing that's fucking written down. It's written down. It was so damn important that they said, you know what? We're not going to allow debate on this. We're not going to allow votes on this. We're not going to allow laws to affect this. We're going to just say, nope, you cannot infringe on the right of people to keep and bear arms. You cannot do it. What does the government do constantly? Infringe, infringe, infringe. It's all they want to do all the time. But our founders wrote it down. Can't do it. And of course, the government has been doing it specifically heavily since 1939. And we have states lately waking up and saying, fuck you. No, you can't do this. The federal government is not upholding their end of the deal. So no. The state says we're going to protect the rights of the citizenry even more than the Constitution. Now, what's interesting is that states always have the ability to protect your rights more than the federal government will. Except here, when you have an Obama-appointed judge being an absolute bitch. Here we go. U.S. District Judge Brian Wimes in Jefferson City, Missouri, said the state's Second Amendment Preservation Act violates the U.S. Constitution's Supremacy Clause, which holds that federal laws take priority over conflicting state laws. First of all, those laws have to actually be in conflict. There has to be a real conflict of law for the federal government to have the possibility of supremacy, and it's not 100% guaranteed. Let's take a look at what this law says. Let's see if we can. Here we go. Let's take a peek at the law. Uh, this is the current bill summary. Um, hold on. I might need to. Let's find the actual bill. Let's see. Bill text. Holy fuck. All right. Well, let's see. Whoa. See if we can zoom this in. All right. So here we go. Shall be known and may be cited as Second Amendment Preservation Act. General Assembly finds and declares that the General Assembly of Missouri is firmly resolved to support and defend, blah, blah, blah. Acting through the Constitution of the United States, people of several states created federal government, etc. These are the findings of the bill. Let's get to the actual operative text. Here we go. All right, here we go. Here's the actual bill that we get to. The following starts here. The following federal acts, laws, executive orders, administrative orders, rules, and regulations shall be considered infringements on the people's right to keep and bear arms, as guaranteed by the Amendment 2 of the Constitution of the United States and Article 1, Section 23 of the Constitution of Missouri, within the borders of this state, including but not limited to. Okay, here we go. Any tax, levy, fee, or stamp imposed on firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition not common to all other goods and services, and that might reasonably be expected to create a chilling effect on the purchase or ownership of those items by law-abiding citizens. So this provision directly targets the National Firearms Act and the tax stamping that goes on with anything deemed to be an unusual weapon. So you've got stuff like machine guns, grenades, explosive devices, sawed-off shotguns, short-barreled rifles, things like that are considered dangerous and unusual weapons. Those things have a tax stamp. You've heard it often. It's a $200 tax stamp. This is deeming that is not enforceable in Missouri. Any registration or tracking of firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition. So no tracking. Any registration or tracking of the ownership of firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition. Any act forbidding the possession, ownership, use, or transfer of a firearm, firearm accessory, or ammunition by law-abiding citizens. So again, this does not change any of the laws restricting felonies or anything like that. And any act ordering the confiscation of firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition from law-abiding citizens. So this is interesting because I wonder if a red flag law would then be unconstitutional or disallowed in Missouri, we should say. So next we've got all federal acts, laws, executive orders, administrative orders, rules, and regulations, regardless of whether they were enacted before or after this provision of sections 1410 to 1485 that infringe on the people's rights to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, shall not be recognized by the state, shall be specifically rejected by the state, and shall not be enforced by the state. So Missouri is simply saying they will not do it. They won't do it. 1440. It shall be the duty of the courts and law enforcement agencies of this state to protect the rights of law-abiding citizens, to keep and bear arms within the borders of this state, and to protect these rights from the infringements defined under sections 1.420 and 1.450. Then we've got no entity or person, including any public officer or employee of this state or any political subdivision of this state, shall have the authority to enforce or attempt to enforce any federal acts, laws, executive orders, administrative orders, rules, regulations, statutes, or ordinances infringing on the right to keep and bear arms as described under section 1.420. So this is saying that no state entity has the power to enforce federal law in Missouri when it comes to these specific things. Next, nothing in this should be construed to prohibit Missouri officials from accepting aid from federal officials in an effort to enforce Missouri laws. So feds can help Missouri enforce Missouri law. Missouri officers are not allowed to enforce federal law under this statute. Then we have any political subdivision or law enforcement agency that employs a law enforcement officer who acts knowingly as defined under this to violate the provisions of 1.450 or otherwise knowingly deprives a citizen of Missouri the rights and privileges ensured by Amendment 2 in Article 1, Section 23 of Missouri, while acting under the color of any state or federal law, shall be liable to the injured party in an action at law, suit in equity, or other proper proceedings for redress and subject to civil penalty of $50,000 per occurrence. So if a cop does this, the police department that employs the cop liable to 50 grand, payable to the victim. Any person injured under this section shall have standing to pursue an action for injunctive relief in the circuit court of the county in which the action allegedly occurred, or in the circuit court of Cole County with respect to the actions of such individual. The court shall hold a hearing on the motions for temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction within 30 days of the service of the petition. In such actions, the court may award the prevailing party, other than the state of Missouri or any political subdivision, reasonable attorney's fees. So if you're suing the state or a municipality, then you get attorney's fees. You can get attorney's fees and costs. The state can't get them from you. Sovereign immunity shall not be an affirmative defense in any action pursuant to this section. Very cool. So the state can be sued straight out. Any agent of the state can be sued. Any political subdivision or agent that knowingly employs an individual who did this, blah, 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 or otherwise acted under the color of federal law within the borders of this state, is knowingly, as defined, blah, 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 after the adoption of the section, enforced or attempted to enforce any. So you can't even hire a former agent who did this after the adoption of the bill. Given material aid and support to the efforts of another who does it. So you can't just contract in federal employees. That's what they're saying to do this. $30,000 per employee. Any person residing in jurisdiction who believes that an individual has taken action that would violate the provision shall have standing to pursue an action. So you just have to live in the jurisdiction. Any person residing or conducting business in a jurisdiction who believes that an individual has taken the action would violate it shall have standing. Oh, wait. So here we go. In such actions, the court may award prevailing party, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sovereign immunity is not a defense. So here we go. The term law-abiding citizen, not otherwise precluded under state law from possessing a firearm, shall not be construed to include anyone who is not legally present in the U.S. or the state of Missouri. Material aid and support. So these are just some definitions that are going through here. It shall not be considered a violation of these sections to provide material aid to federal prosecution for felony crimes against a person when such prosecution includes weapons violations substantially similar to those found in chapters 570 or 571, so long as such weapons violations are merely ancillary to such prosecution, or Class A or B felony violations substantially similar to those found in Chapter 579 when such prosecution includes weapons violations substantially similar to those found in 570 or 571, so long as such weapons are merely ancillary. So they're not allowing federal prosecution or state prosecution of federal issues here that are just related to the guns. They are allowing the state to assist in federal crimes where the gun is ancillary to it. So if you murder someone with a gun, you can help the investigation. But if the crime is the possession or use of the firearm particularly, then they're not allowed to help in that prosecution. I hope that's kind of clear. It's a muddy mess with no paragraph breaks, like some sort of fucking heathen. Immediate action is necessary, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So the long and short is this protects the rights of the citizens of the state of Missouri for anything happening within the state of Missouri in regards to not allowing the infringement of of your rights to own a firearm through federal law. Then they're not preventing the enforcement of federal law by federal law enforcement. What they're doing is saying that Missouri law enforcement cannot participate in depriving people of their rights. They can't do that. That's it. You've seen this all over the place. Sanctuary states for all sorts of federal laws, including immigration laws and others, which have routinely been upheld. In this case, and by the way, on immigration issues, the federal government has plenary authority. So to suggest that this would be different, where the states actually, the federal government does not have plenary authority on Second Amendment issues or gun issues, because states can have their own gun laws. And the states cannot have their own immigration laws in the same way. So to hold these, to say that you can have an immigration sanctuary city, but you can't, or sanctuary city, state, whatever, but you can't with guns is nonsensical. It's inconsistent with how the law has been ruled. Okay, so that's the Second Amendment Preservation Act. That it violates the U.S. Constitution Supremacy Clause. Again, there has to be an actual conflict with the state law. I don't think there is one here. I don't think there is one. Oh, did I say I said plenary, but people may not know. Plenary authority means that they have sole authority. It's not subject to anyone else's check. There's no other approval. There's no secondary authority that needs to sign off on something. Plenary authority means it's theirs and it's unchallengeable. All right. Wimes, an appointee of former President Barack Obama, in a siding with Democratic President Joe Biden's administration, called the practical effects of the Republican-led state's law counterintuitive to its stated purpose. Nope. Not at all, actually. While purporting to protect citizens, SAPA exposes citizens to greater harm by interfering with the federal government's ability to enforce lawfully enacted firearms regulations designed by Congress for the purpose of protecting citizens, he wrote. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, a Republican, in a statement promised an appeal, saying he was committed to defending Missourians' fundamental right to bear arms. Do we have how long is this opinion? 24 pages. We're probably not going to read all of this. We'll read this background in a second, though. We got a huge red boy from Amazing Wireless. Oh, shit, I'm adopting Camelot's. Sorry, red boy might be very, very offensive for me to call a $100 plus super chat. We've got a Native American boy from Amazing Wireless, too. He says, this is for a toast to my buddy Chris, who calls me on the phone upset that I send you money via super chats. He's MGTOW, but the worst kind. He hasn't touched a woman in 20 years. I tell him it's only money and that he would be happier if he used his money for troons. A toast to Chris. 20 years of MGTOW. His hands no longer touching women. And assumably, ludicrously touching himself. My man Chris, while there is no shame in self-pleasure, I toast you to find the supple and soft skin of a wonderful woman, grab onto it, feel the squish, feel the give, love the curve. And my friend, don't let MGTOW ruin a very, very good thing. Guard yourself, gird your loins, protect your wallet, protect your life's work. But man, get your hands on some squishy skin. Cheers, brother. All right. So let's see what the background here, which we've got it. Basically the same thing that they said. U.S. seeks a declaratory judgment that SAPA is invalid. Defendant's motion to dismiss is denied. So that's the state making a motion to dismiss. They deny that. U.S. has standing, I guess. The United States demonstrates injury in fact. The United States alleges no case or controversy under Muskrat, and only state actors, not the United States, are subject to regulation under SAPA. So they're trying to say that there's no standing for the federal government to sue. The U.S. has a concrete injury attributable to defendant's implementation enforcement of SAPA that is particularized and actual. The United States demonstrates injury in fact relative to SAPA's interference with the function of federal firearms regulations and public safety objectives. The injury in fact requirement is satisfied. How? How does SAPA interfere with federal firearms regulations by not allowing state law enforcement to participate in it? They can't mandate state law enforcement enforce federal firearms law. They can't do that. They've tried that before. They fail. They couldn't even mandate that state law enforcement do background checks on the sale of guns. They could not do it. They could not mandate a state law enforcement version of a federal background check. It had to be a federal one. United States demonstrates causation, redressability, so the court can fix it by shutting it down, is what they're saying here. Motion for summary judgment is granted, and defendant's motion is denied. Uncontroverted facts. 1934, Congress enacted the National Firearms Act. Let's take a pause for a minute. If we're talking about unconstitutional laws, one of the most blatantly, facially unconstitutional laws in the history of the United States is the National Firearms Act of 1934. Period. Full stop. Fuck off. If you disagree, you are wrong. There is no way around this. It says in the Constitution, under the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, semicolon, the rights of the people to, or comma, either one, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. Keep and bear arms. Not reasonable arms, not approved arms, not acceptable arms, not common use at the time arms, not non-military arms, not military arms, just fucking arms. Just it. That's it. All of them. Forever. Every single one of them. The right to keep and bear arms. Period. Shall not be infringed. There is nowhere else to fucking go with this. And yet, loop-a-doop-a-doo, 1934, communism on the rise in the United States, very specifically at this time. And what happens? National Firearms Act comes along and infringes on the rights of the people to keep and bear arms. This would be challenged under U.S. versus Miller in 1939. Miller would die prior to his case getting to the Supreme Court, and his attorney would just decide not to argue the case. And the federal government is the only entity that argues U.S. v. Miller before the Supreme Court of the United States. And shockingly, the Supreme Court sides with the only entity that argued, the federal government. U.S. v. Miller is a travesty of American jurisprudence. U.S. v. Miller codifies into law the National Firearms Act, which specifically does the literal fucking opposite of what the Second Amendment says. And your rights were truncated by a government that allowed itself to be the sole voice in a controversy between the government and the citizenry. And we're supposed to be okay with this. We're supposed to say this is constitutional. This is good. No, this is right. This has lasted forever. Imagine if we allowed this anywhere else. Imagine if we tolerated this with other rights. Imagine if we tolerated the notion of how this played out in 1939. So Miller dies, let's say of natural causes. Why does his attorney drop out? He just doesn't care about the case anymore. He just did a bunch of work and he's like, you know what? Actually, I don't mind. What if I posit to you that the government threatened to end that attorney's license, life, existence, family in order to gain control over the people through this law? What is the most terrifying thing for a government? It's an armed populace. It always has been. Every government throughout all of time. They're terrified when the populace gained weapons of war that rivaled the government's ability to wage it. The government suddenly realized it was on the losing end of the conflict. Now, a sword's a sword, right? A spear's a spear. You hold a spear, another guy holds a spear, you come into conflict, one of you is coming out on top based on skill of arms. 10 people come at you with a spear, and you have one spear. You're very likely to lose that, no matter how good you are at anything. Sure, there are anomalies, but the reality is, the more spears you have, the more swords you have, the more likely it is that the one individual will lose. That changed dramatically with guns. dramatically. You have a large amount of ammunition that is easily transportable, that is imminently lethal, that can be wielded by one person effectively against any number of targets. The amount of people that you have to overcome one semi-automatic weapon is a number significantly higher than the capacity of the weapon. And there's some guns with some large capacity. I'm not just talking about magazines. We're talking about belt feeds. We're talking about high yield explosive devices. So what happens when a government isn't just 1v1ing you, bro, with a sword, or 10v1ing you, bro, with a sword? What if it's 50 federal agents, but you've got a drum-fed AR-15 with 100 shots? Okay, 50 federal agents, not as threatening anymore. The calculus changed. Now, with each person that you add to that one, you multiply vastly the amount of government resources needed to suppress individuals. Look at Waco. We talked about Waco the other day. Look at what it took. Look at the Bundy Ranch, Clive and Bundy. Look at what it took, because there's like 5-6 guys with guns. Not miniguns, not M60s. Now imagine instead of a gun, you have a tank. You have a 20 millimeter machine gun mounted on a Humvee. The amount of havoc you can wreak with that is astronomical. Doesn't happen very often. It's not because of the law, by the way. The law isn't what's preventing this. It's the impracticality and the lack of people's general will to go after a government. They know it's a death sentence. But it's not about going after the government. It's about protecting yourself from government, and it always has been. The government is terrified of their inability to regulate us when we have access to the same weapons of war that they do, or even inferior weapons of war, but still have mass destructive capability. The National Firearms Act was aimed to curb that and has been implemented further and further and further to continue curbing it, culminating in the the effective outlawing of machine guns for the majority of Americans, by preventing the new manufacture of them, by artificially driving up the price to unattainable levels. You're talking about $20,000, $25,000 for a machine gun. They had to all be manufactured before 1986. They made it a finite commodity. All of this through one unconstitutional law in 1934. It's the first citation that this guy has. Why? Because all fucking cucks cite to the National Firearms Act. All of them. Whenever you talk about guns, but we can regulate guns. Look, we did. Every single time. Just know that it was unconstitutional when it was passed. It was unconstitutional when the bullshit communist court upheld it in 1939. It's been unconstitutional ever since. And it better be on the fucking chopping block after New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, because the new standard says we have to have a historical tradition dating back to the Constitution of regulating guns in this particular way. And the National Firearms Act has no historical tradition prior to its existence. None. None at all. Where's my man? Where is he? There it is. Got Sean in as a moderator so I can see him now. Hey, buddy, how's it going? But that's where this all boils down to. It all goes back. This is the first major, I think it's the first federal gun regulation that exists. It's passed in 1934. 140 years after the Constitution? All right, here we go. These regulatory schemes deal with the sale, manufacture, and possession of firearms and ammunition. The Gun Control Act in 1968. Oh yeah, another shining time of American democracy. The NFA provides for registration and taxation requirements on the manufacture and transfer of certain firearms, including machine guns, certain types of rifles, shotgun silencers, and destructive devices like grenades. The NFA does not regulate most handguns, nor does it prohibit ownership of regulated firearms. Oh yeah, no, it's super easy to just own regulated firearms. So simple, right? Anybody can do it. You just have to give the government everything about you. You have to put yourself on a fucking list. You have to give them all of this information. You have to get fingerprinted like you're a criminal. They scrutinize every aspect of your life. Why? Because instead of going bang, it goes bang, 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 bang. That's it. That's the difference. Let me take just a second and read these super chats from Squid. Squid, what's up, buddy? He says, that law makes me proud to be from Missouri. I first heard about the law in 2018 when it was a bill struggling to get past the House. Some of the original wording of the bill was going to allow Missouri cops to arrest feds in Missouri. Awesome. Ammo is currency. Says, this is why government fears guns. He's got a little quote here. Let's pull this up. And how we burned in the camps later thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family? Or if during periods of mass arrests, as for example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat there in their layers, paling with terror at the every bang at the downstairs door and at every step on the staircase, but had understood they had nothing left to lose and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush with half a dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, or whatever else was at hand. The organs would very quickly have suffered a shortage of officers and transport, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt. If we didn't love freedom enough, and even more, we had no awareness of the real situation. We purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterward. And that's from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I can't pronounce his fucking name. From the Gulag Archipelago. A pretty famous writing. But that's it. The government fears the people because there's so fucking many of us. What's up, Nina? How you doing? Now imagine if instead of hammers and hatchets, it's guns. They're terrified. Reed Devoted says, Ricada Law, goddamn, I'm back, and I can see you got locals to implement payment with phone. So as promised, you beautiful man, here's some pocket money from Asia for the haircut. Thank you, Reed Devoted. Johnny K198, what the fuck? This is the BS I expected, or this BS I expected Ricada Law in drag, highlighting those shoulders. False advertising. Lol, can you check out this quick video, 1-minute cartoon of FBI ATF firearms training? Firearms Unknown has great videos mocking them. Not on YouTube. EA Cowden says, Nick, can we go over the judge's decision? I want to see what kind of mental gymnastics this fucker pulled to rule this unconstitutional. We're doing that now. All right. Okay, here we go. The GCA, this is the Gun Control Act of 1968, defines firearm to include any weapon, including a starter gun, which will or is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive, the frame or receiver of any such weapon, any firearm, a muffler or firearm silencer, or any destructive device. GCA also bans the transfer or possession of machine guns not already lawfully possessed prior to 1986, and the manufacture, sale, or transfer of any firearm that is not detectable by walk-through metal detector or X-ray inspection commonly used at airports. No porcelain guns, which don't exist, by the way. Hartman says feds can't sleep at night unless they know they can do whatever they want to you. Any resistance to them is a personal affront. And 390 Galaxy says, can I get a toast and prayer for my fiance's and I's first baby together? Just found out Tuesday it's a high-risk pregnancy. My stepson was born at 26 weeks with cerebral palsy. Oh, damn. Yeah, I got you, buddy. All right. All right, here we go. to 390 Galaxy and their fiance and their first baby. A high risk pregnancy, which is always unnerving, even when everything goes well. A cheers to them. A cheers to the health of their baby. A healthy, swift, and eventless pregnancy. And a letting go of the fear from previous experiences with birth. Cheers. All right, here we go. Back to this thing. Blah, blah, blah. GCA imposes licensing requirements on anyone engaged in the business of importing, manufacturing, or dealing firearms or importing or manufacturing ammunition, and requires those involved in these activities, i.e. federal firearms licensees, to receive a license from the Attorney General and pay certain fees. FFLs must maintain records, blah, 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 blah. GCA also prohibits the possession of firearms by certain categories of individuals, including those who've been convicted of a felony. This isn't relevant at all because that's all still fine, have to be law-abiding citizens. Those who have been convicted of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence, those who have been dishonorably discharged from the military, non-citizens not lawfully in the United States, unlawful users of controlled substances, and others, although this was just struck down in, I believe, Oklahoma or Texas. I can't remember. Fifth Circuit. Demon's Wrath says, weren't all of your pregnancies high risk? Yes. All five of our successful ones were high risk. The first three that did not succeed were not, they probably would have been considered high risk, of course. So here we go. Here's the act and what it says. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see what reasoning he has in here. I guess I could have just gone to this decision to get the relevant sections. Federal Joint Task Forces involve state and local law enforcement officers who are deputized as federal law enforcement officers and voluntarily serve alongside federal officials to enforce federal law. ATF relies on joint task forces to investigate and enforce laws relevant to the illegal use, possession, tracking of firearms. Let me just go ahead and say the obvious. So fucking what? That they do this is irrelevant to whether they must do it this way. The United States Marshal Service has 3 task forces across Missouri that are primarily devoted to the apprehension of fugitives. Who cares? Why do we have to have joint task forces? The federal government has the resources to do this. Missouri is not required to help them. After SAPA was enacted, ATF sent an informational letter to federal firearms licensees to confirm the continuing applicability of existing federal regulations. SAPA is subject to two state court lawsuits. Blah, 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 blah. Analysis. U.S. government argues it is entitled to summary judgment because it's unconstitutional, violates Supremacy Clause, that is in that its cornerstone provision purports to nullify federal law and or is preempted by federal law. United States argues because that is non-severable from SAPA's other provisions, it is invalid and unconstitutional in its entirety. Second, they argue that these are each independently unconstitutional. All right. Let's see the Supremacy Clause argument, which I'm not buying. The Supremacy Clause provides that the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. By this declaration, the states are prohibited from passing any act which shall be repugnant to the law of the United States. The states have no power by taxation or otherwise to retard, impede, very offensive of the federal government here, to retard, impede, burden, or in any manner control the operations of the constitutional laws enacted by Congress, carry into effect the powers vested in the national government. Sort of. How does this stop federal enforcement of law? Further, the law of Congress is paramount. It cannot be nullified by direct act of any state, nor the scope and effect of its provisions set at naught indirectly. As such, a state's legislature's attempt to interpose itself against federal law is a legal defiance of constitutional authority. Yep, this is all fine. That's not what's happening here. SAPA's unconstitutional interposition against federal law and is designed to be just that. This section states the Missouri General Assembly's declaration that the Supremacy Clause does not extend to various federal statutes, executive orders, administrative orders, court orders, rules, regulations, or other acts that collect data or restrict or prohibit the manufacture, ownership, or use of firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition exclusively within the borders of Missouri. Now, the reason they say this is because Congress has the power to regulate interstate commerce. Interstate commerce. And so they say, okay, if it's all done exclusively within Missouri, nothing is interstate at that point. That is just commerce within the state. Now, we have a really fucking shitty decision on file from 1929 called Wickard versus Filburn. And Wickard versus Filburn determined that all commerce is interstate commerce, literally all of it. It's been walked back a little bit since then, but it still largely prevails. So, however, the Missouri General Assembly's assertion that the Supremacy Clause does not extend to those acts of Congress does not make it so. To the contrary, the law of Congress is paramount. It cannot be nullified by direct act of any state, nor the scope and effect of its positions set it not indirectly. Again, not happening here. The plain language of that reiterates and confirms SAPA's unconstitutional design. This isn't a thing, by the way. There isn't an unconstitutional design. The introductory language, which is not operative, by the way, introductory language is a prefatory clause, is not operative law. Following federal acts, laws, blah, 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 shall be considered infringements in the people's right to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by Amendment 2 of the Constitution of the United States within the borders of this state. It then purports to categorize certain enumerated federal regulations set forth in the NFA and Gun Control Act as infringements on the people's right to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by the Second Amendment. It's true. Yet, notwithstanding its recitation of infringements, the National Firearms Act and Gun Control Act are presumptively lawful regulatory measures. From D.C. versus Heller. Thanks again, Scalia, you fucking chump. Though it purports to invalidate substantive provisions of the NFA and the GCA within Missouri, such an act is invalid under the Supremacy Clause. But that's not what it actually purports to do. It just states that the state of Missouri cannot be involved in the enforcement of these laws that they determine to be unconstitutional. That's different than invalidating the law. They're not preventing the federal enforcement of federal law. And even though Missouri defines certain substantive provisions of the NFA and GCA as infringements, the regulatory measures are still valid in Missouri through the Supremacy Clause. That's not actually necessarily true. Thus, to the extent that it purports to negate the constitutionality or substance of the NFA or GCA, these regulatory schemes are presumptively lawful, and it is impermissible nullification attempt that violates the Supremacy Clause. No, again, this law stands to invalidate Missouri's enforcement of federal law that it deems to be unconstitutional. They say it's preempted. Same sort of argument. Federal law preempts a state law if the two are in direct conflict. A direct conflict occurs when compliance with both federal and state regulations is a physical impossibility, or when a state law stands as an obstacle to the accomplishment and execution of the full purpose and objectives of Congress. Under the uncontroverted facts, the NFA sets forth taxation requirements on the manufacture and transfer of certain firearms. It states that any tax, levy, feel, or stamp imposed on firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition that might reasonably be expected to create a chilling effect on the purchase of ownership of those items by law-abiding citizens is an infringement on the people's right to keep and bear arms. Imagine if prior to the overturning of Roe versus Wade, if a state or the federal government tried to impose a $200 tax on abortions. They're like, bitch, take that haunted womb and put it to, you got to pay $200. You got to pay $200 because we need more exorcists. That would have been that would have been unconstitutional, flat out. Unconstitutional and impermissible bar on the exercise of a fundamental right. Yeah, with guns, it's fine. With guns, it's fine. However, that Missouri states that the taxation requirements create a chilling effect is immaterial where Congress has lawfully imposed the requirements. Further, such a statement stands as an obstacle to the full purposes and objectives of federal firearms regulatory measures because it creates confusion regarding Missouri citizens' obligation to comply with the taxation requirements of the NFA. No, it doesn't. Again, it's all about what Missouri can do. It doesn't change the federal requirement. You still have to pay your federal tax stamp. It just won't be enforced by Missouri. It's enforced by the ATF. Under the facts, NFA provides for the registration tracking. GCA imposes these requirements. So, blah, 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 blah. It's going to be the same argument here. They stand as obstacles to the sole purpose or to the full purpose because they create confusion. The logical implication is that Missouri citizens need not comply with federal licensing and registration requirements within the borders of Missouri. Since Missouri citizens must comply with federal registration and licensing requirements for firearms, notwithstanding its definition, it stands as obstacles. How? If they must do it, it's not an obstacle. This is, guys, this judge just said the Missouri law cannot prevent the federal registration or the federal taxation. Therefore, the Missouri law stands as an obstacle to the federal registration, the federal taxation. How? If it can't prevent it, if they still must comply with those requirements, how could it possibly be an obstacle? This is the kind of sound reasoning you get from judges in the United States. But it's going to be the same shit because they stand as obstacles. Here we go. They create confusion about the possession, ownership, use, transfer, confiscation of firearms within Missouri by purporting to reduce the scope of federal regulations pertaining to the possession, blah, 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 blah. Federal regulations Missouri citizens must comply by attempting to alter the definition of a law-abiding citizen who may possess or own or transfer or use a firearm within Missouri. That and that conflict with the GCA's definition of who may possess or own or transfer or use a firearm within Missouri. This is insane because if Missouri had applied a law that defines firearms or law-abiding citizens more strictly than the federal government, they would have been okay. They would have been just fine. Let's see. Here we go. It's unconstitutional in its entirety because the cornerstone, blah, blah, blah. He just accepted the government's argument. I mean, that's what he did there. Oh, violate the doctrine of intergovernmental immunity. Yeah, no, thank you. We get the idea. We get the idea on this. I think you guys are with me. The entire purpose of this bill is to prevent the forced enforcement of federal law by Missouri state actors. That's the purpose. Look, in Missouri, fuck off feds. Feds, do it yourself. We're not helping you. We will not be party to the infringement on the rights of our citizens. And a judge comes along and says, a state can't do that. Yes, they can. They can't stop the federal government from enforcement, right? Now, if the feds want to send 2,000 extra agents for enforcement to Missouri, the feds can do that. That's up to them. They can say, well, we don't have our intergovernmental task force anymore, our interagency task force. Therefore, we now need full enforcement from just federal agents. They could do that. So this thing's going to get appealed. I don't know how the appeal is going to work out, but I think the reasoning provided by the judge is poor. I think there's plenty of grounds to argue with it. And I think under New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, they can bring that in. They can attack directly. The laws, the GCA and the National Firearms Act, as presumptively unconstitutional under NYSRPA versus Bruin. And that's where I really want to go with all of this gun talk, is that all of the laws, all of the gun laws that exist everywhere are subject. They're all subject to the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. because none of them have a historical tradition in the United States. And if you had told our founders that, oh, yeah, well, people can have guns, but we're just going to force them to register all of them on a list that's held by the government when they buy them. Wait, so whenever anyone buys a gun, you're going to put it on a list? If the government has a list of everyone and their address and all that stuff? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I don't like that. I don't like that. It goes against the very notion of how our country was founded. So we'll see. This one is in federal court. It'll go to the federal appeals court and then potentially up to the Supreme Court. Will the Supreme Court take it? That's a different question. The Supreme Court is eventually going to have to further clarify Bruin. But that could be a ways off. But this will currently go to what circuit is Missouri in? That is the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. Hey, that's mine, I think. Gross. Well, good luck, Missouri. Not to bring that party down. Oh my gosh. But yeah, the idea that any of these laws were ever constitutional is offensive to the notion of the Constitution. And so we'll see. We'll see what the 8th Circuit does, and then we'll see, of course, what the Supreme Court does, if they do anything. But my position is very fucking clear. All gun laws that apply to law-abiding citizens and restrict their ability to have guns in any way are facially offensive to the Constitution and the Second Amendment and the plain text of it, and should be found unconstitutional immediately. Derek Noodles, thank you for the donation. We've got also did I get rid of this thing? No. Here we go. Sorry. Kyle Surface 537 says, stop, Nick. I can only get so hard. And Hartman read that one. And then Monster Girl Supremacist sent a two-parter here I want to read. Says, I lost over 100 pounds in 2021, in part thanks to you, but realized that being healthy wasn't making me happy and have since fallen into old habits and gained 40 pounds in the last few months. Any advice for someone who isn't convinced that a longer life is not worth living without enjoyment to justify not falling into complete hedonism? Okay. Monster Girl Supremacist. First of all, that's a horrific anime name that you should be probably ashamed of, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to shame you for that. God laid down this commandment in Leviticus. He said, scribing into the stone for all of mankind to see, thou shalt not eat, bitch. That's what he said. Oh, you're missing some food? Eat less. That's it. You don't have to not eat what you like. Eat fucking less. That's it. Eat less, walk more. It's like a Hamilton song, my man. Eat less, move around more. You don't have to lose all the weight at once. Look, you lost 100 pounds. It's a huge, huge chop. It's expected that you hit a little bit of a recess. You're going to gain some of that weight back because you're not just losing permanent weight. A lot of what you're going to lose is water weight and other things. It's going to come back the moment you take a breath. But a couple things here. If your diet is unsustainable, get a new diet. You should not be miserable how you eat. If you're eating healthy and exercising, your body will start converting what you find good. You'll start enjoying higher protein foods. You'll stop enjoying sugary foods. You'll stop enjoying sugary drinks as much. You just will, until you start feeding those back into your body. And then you go, and that addiction starts kicking in. But man, it is an addiction That is not giving you pleasure. That is giving you a false pleasure. Look, I love me some donuts. I love cookies. I ate some Thin Mints earlier today. They were so fucking good. Thin Mints are fucking good, man. I ate some. It was great. Am I going to stuff my face full of boxes of Thin Mints every day? No. No. The unfathomable amount of food that you have to eat to gain 40 pounds. Now, I don't know what the timeline is, but the unfathomable amount of food that you have to eat to gain 40 pounds is huge. You have to have a calorie surplus of 3,500 calories per pound. Per pound. So 40 times 3,500 is a lot. I'm a lawyer. I don't do this. You can figure it out. If you're going to eat more, move more. If you want to eat certain things because you like them and they're higher in calories, they're more dense, move more, eat less of them. Eat them more frequently, but less at a time. All of these things are options for you. You don't have to cut off everything you like. But is a longer life better than experiencing the joys of some particular food? Dude, there's so much food out there. And you're like, well, I really love these zebra cakes. I better eat 10 of them right now. No, fucking stop being fat. There you go. That's the end of it. Stop being fucking fat. Stop it. You were trying. You were winning. You were succeeding. Get back into it, brother. There's plenty of good food. You're not condemned to a life of chicken and fucking rice. You can do this. You can do it. Stop being a bitch. All right, here we go. Yorick Tarleton says, with this level of sound reasoning, can we get a short clip, maybe a series on how to remove a judge? State specific. I see a lot of views on 50 shorts or 50 videos. Yeah, removing a federal judge is damn near impossible. They have to be impeached. You have to impeach a federal judge to get them out. They're life appointments for good behavior. Farmhouse Felds, I agree. Chicken and rice are delicious, but some people get really tired of eating the same chicken and white rice or chicken and brown rice every single day, which is insane. Don't do that. Eat a steak. Eat a pork chop. Eat some eggs. Mad Amos says Arizona SB 1070, where we wanted to enforce federal law and they said we couldn't. So obviously we can't enforce other federal laws either, right? Oh, yeah, that's where Arizona wanted to enforce immigration law and the feds are like, nope, can't do it. PDF Elves says, we just came to say thank you for showing us the Super Karens group. We've been having trouble with them for the last year, doxing our friends. Who the fuck is a Super Karens group? I don't know who that is. The fuck is that? What I do know is this. What I do know is that if you're trying to lose weight, this is not a diet program. So don't pay attention to this for losing weight. If you're trying to be healthy, though, fieldofgreens.com/nose is a great way to do it. Get your fruits and vegetables in one low calorie. Look, it's 10 calories. It's 10 grams of fruits and vegetables, all ground up. Put it in your drink. Very simple. It's 10 calories. It's one sugar carb and 2 fiber carbs, or 2 grams of fiber carbs and 1 gram of sugar carbs. Low calorie, low carb thing that you can do to supplement your nutrition needs. You don't like eating broccoli? Drink it. Make it taste like berries and bullshit. It's good though. This is the trick to this, is it actually tastes good and it will help you get healthier. Again, this is not a diet shake. This doesn't have a bunch of supplements in it, like all the vitamins you need. This is just the general health of having fruits and vegetables in your diet, which when you're trying to restrict your intake, or when you're like me and you're just too busy to eat more than about a meal a day, is critical to get those fruits and vegetables where you can, because I would much rather eat a fucking ribeye. I'd much rather eat a fucking ribeye than, asparagus, right? I think most of us are in the same boat. You can do that. You can eat your ribeye, drink one of these. Because let's face it, if you're cooking vegetables to make them good, you typically have to drown them in butter, salt, and other shit. You don't have to do that with this. They taste good. They taste good in the drink. So eat your steak, enjoy your high protein, high power, good fat foods, and then save your vegetables and fruits, which are loaded with carbs. Save those for your drink, and do that through fieldofgreens.com. Use promo code NOSE to get yourself a little bit off. Look, they guarantee better health after using their product for a year. So give it a shot. See if you like it. I like it. I like all of them that I've tried so far. I've got another one to try very soon. And yeah, they also have antioxidants or whatever because they're superfoods. And there's one with natural caffeine that's in there as well. Not all of them have that, but that's up to you guys. They're all organic. They're all clean or whatever, and only like 40% cat piss. So give it a shot. I really like them, honestly, unironically. I like the product ever since trying it, and I wouldn't advertise it if I didn't. So, okay. Did we kill the guns issue? I think we mostly killed the guns issue. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to convert to Islam. Hello. No, sorry. We're going to convert over to Rumble in just a minute. I do need to go ahead and read through the super chats that have come in. And then we'll hit over to Rumble and we'll continue the show over there. Corn Pop says Patentlosungen, which is something in Dutch, I'm guessing. Next, we got Corn Pop again, says, any single ladies out there? KP Klukin says, which do you think is more concerning, the law in Missouri having to be fought through in court, or the credit card companies tracking all known new gun and ammo purchases at places like the gun store? I think they're equally concerning in different ways. Not to take a Tim Pool approach to it and sit on that fence, but the reality is there's no business purpose for a credit card company tracking these purchases, and I would wager the federal government is behind it, and it's probably illegal. Next us says hashtag free Nexus, hashtag free Blobby. Dude, I told you to email me. Email me. I literally need you to, if you want to do that. Igor Slagathor says, did you finally watch Ogren? Yes, I did. It was very, very good. The only criticism I have of Ogren is the Orc and Ogren videos have, I think, the same voice actor, and the voicing is very, very similar. I wish they would have gotten someone to do a little bit different style, but they're both very good. Rye Lion says, this chat goes out to my baby girl born today. Hey, this chat goes out to my baby girl today. Jacob McQuaid says, could Ripa, Melanie Mack, or Gabe El Tabe have a defamation case against Angry Joe? I think Angry Joe walked it back. The problem that all of them have is actually being damaged. But I think, didn't he call him racist? Racist is not a term that has typically been held as actionable in defamation. Unfortunately, because racist is one of the most destructive labels that can be put on someone in 2023. But merely calling someone a racist has not been held as actionable. It is considered a protected opinion. That person's a racist. Now, before anybody cites the bakery down in wherever that was, they won their case based on the phrase, they have a documented history of racism. Was the racism actually documented? And it turns out, no, there wasn't a documented history of racism. But had they merely said the owners of this thing are racist, there wouldn't have been much they could have done. Um, let's see. Space Force Commander says it's really bothered me. I never saw evidence in Alec Murdaugh that the found shells and casings were even from the shooting. All the testimony was there was shootings all over that property. Yeah, correct. Jake Shadow Citizen says, "Oh, I'll be that smell." What the fuck? The Real Hydro PX says, "I named my dog Syndrome, so when he's misbehaving, I yell down Syndrome." Let's talk about prepping. Says, "I'm writing this forward at the last moment. I almost didn't do it at all, but removing this forward is child abuse. It's a great book. You should read it or something." Nick Ricada. That's pretty close. Pretty close to what I'm gonna write. Scarvy the Strange says, "Someone needs to deepfake Matthew Harris reading Unbreaded." Corn Pop says, "Below me." James Curran says, "The Sam Cedar comment section about Tucker, lol." Ryoji Mata says, "Missouri should go ahead with the law anyway and let the judge try and enforce it. Good luck with that." Dirty Ezio says, "I accidentally hit Bixby during your pew pew law rant, triggering multiple Google searches. Phone is glitching and unusable. I'm sure it was flagged by multiple alphabet boys." Oh no. RIP. Please hide your dog immediately. Keep your dog away. Nicholas Strero, union rep, labor law says, "Drag or clergy, peds will hide where there's access." Scarvy the Strange. "First they take your guns, then they'll take your cat." Hashtag save Mushu. Corn Pops and Eyes. Let's talk about prepping. Says, "It's quite affordable to get a CNC setup, and soon desktop CNC machines will be common. Any gang with smart leader and a few 100,000 can make dozens of autos a day in a basement, and soon anyone can." Roger de Laborde says, "Can I get a prayer for my mother-in-law? Just been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, fast spreading. Hope we've caught it in time." Yes, big prayers to your mother-in-law, and I do hope that the doctors are able to help out and take care of that. That the treatment goes much better than expected, and her recovery is immediate and complete. Helena says, "Hello, my friend. Sorry I'm late. How's it going, Helena?" Corn Pop says, 7EE was rough rut. Helena also says, "Eat less, smile more, be happy with who you are and what you stand for, but life ain't easy. It's hard to get ahead. Sometimes I want to just be dead." There you go. You did that all in Hamilton cadence, but I'm not going to. Eat less, smile more. Not going to do it. Jake, Shadow Citizens, has just assessed a childhood trauma, which was literally an accident. "I haven't eaten my emotions in a month. No pop too." Good. Don't eat your emotions and don't drink soda. Soda's terrible for you. Look, if you're a little skinny thing or whatever, drink soda, I guess. But it's so bad for you. And if you stop drinking it, you'll stop wanting it. Malik Foxon says, "To the guy bemoaning missing out on food, I can witness to this. I've stopped eating sugar. I've been having a blast discovering new food to eat and new ingredients that are healthier to continue eating the things I love. I've dropped 50 pounds in 3 months doing literally just that. I haven't changed anything. I sub potato for rutabaga. I sub bread for large lettuce leaf. I get no sugar ketchup. I count carbs. And if I can't have it, I find a low carb alternative." There you go. Encouragement from Malik. Dude, there's tons of good food out there that you've probably never tried that is way healthier than whatever junk you're shoveling into your gullet. Fortunato 13 says, "Hey, Nick, can I ask for a toast to my father, Chris, who turned 72 this February? I sent you a DM on Twitter if it's not too long." It almost guaranteed is too long. Let me see. Oh, God. I don't know where your Twitter message is because I don't know what your Twitter name is. So what I'll just do is this. we'll just go ahead with the toast to your father, Chris, 72 this February. A big cheers to Chris, 72 years old. May we all be fortunate enough to exceed historical life expectancy and move on into our golden years where our wisdom and our life experience can be shared with others, can be listened to by those who would rather not, and that we can all get the sort of brazen FU attitude that comes with living through a whole bunch of stuff that makes everything minor seem trivial. Cheers to Chris to many more years. Groovy Egg says the guy with cases of Pop-Tarts. I didn't buy those. Someone sent them to me, and notice I still have them. I rarely eat Pop-Tarts. You've seen me eat them on the trial streams, and that's about it. Anyway, that is it for the YouTube chat. Guys, the link to the Rumble chat is in the description on YouTube. Make sure you pop over there straight away. We're going to continue the show over on Rumble, and it's going to be a blast over there. So make sure you come on over and let's do it. Let's finish the show over there, and we've got a whole lot more to cover. All right, I will catch you there in a few seconds as we play this little transition piece. Hashtag transition, and we will identify as Rumble only in just a minute. Peace. Peace.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen,